Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Divas revolution has begun, and pretty sure it's dead now. I love what they're doing down in NXT. These girls are putting on phenomenal 5-star matches almost every single week. I went to a house show not that long ago. It was one of the first house shows in New York, and it was a stacked card. I mean, the main event was Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor versus Tyler Breeze, and it was a phenomenal match. But the one match that I remember through that entire pay-per-view that I felt stole the show was Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. These women have been putting on a spectacle down there, and it's incredible. I mean, you take a look at Sasha Banks versus Bayley at TakeOver. That match was incredible. But then they get brought up to the main roster, and it's like these matches aren't even worth talking about. I mean, there's so many mistakes. There's miscommunication, and these are things that aren't really happening over at NXT. So you have to wonder, what's causing this? My opinion is it's the crappy direction coming from backstage, where these guys apparently have no idea what they're doing. It seems like the women who come from the main roster, who were bred on the main roster, so to speak, these women were taught a more simplistic style of wrestling, a more simplistic style of calling their matches, whereas the women down at NXT, they were taught a more complicated way of calling matches, because there's so much miscommunication, and it just feels to me like these main roster girls, and this is not an attack on them, but it just feels to me like these main roster girls can't seem to keep up with the women from NXT, and it's really, really showing all of their holes. It's just not. You go watch Sasha Banks versus Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship at TakeOver, and to me the main event, which to me was the co-main event, and I think that should have ended the show, to be quite honest, because I felt like that was the best match of the night. I think that match not only topped every other match on TakeOver, which every other match on TakeOver, in my opinion, were pretty damn good, and the main event was phenomenal too. You have Finn Balor going against Kevin Owens in a ladder match. Phenomenal. They put on one hell of a show, but that women's match just had something special, because not only were these women able to put on a performance that's wrestling-based, not only were they able to put on a wrestling-based performance, but they were able to tell a story too. These girls showcased their wrestling ability and show that they can wrestle. On top of, they show that they can also tell a story. That is the total package. That is what you look for in this company. The WWE should be drooling all over these women, and not in a weird way. But Kevin Dunn is running things backstage, so maybe it is a weird way. But they should be doing whatever they have to get these women onto the main roster, and to package them in a way where they can continue to showcase his ability, because they're being squandered on the main roster. You have Paige come up from NXT, and she was having 5-star matches down there with Emma. You bring both those girls up, and all of a sudden, they can't seem to put on a decent match. I'm not saying their matches on the main roster are bad, but in comparison to what they were doing over at NXT, it's night and day. You can't compare it. And that's sad to me, because they want to keep calling this a Divas revolution, but they don't seem to be really, truly letting these women off the leash. Let them go. Let them do their thing. That seems to be the consensus on the main roster, is that, they have a tight leash on all of their superstars and, quote, divas. And, they're more concerned with this, total divas reality show nonsense than they are with the actual performance aspect of it, which that is your show. You don't have to call it wrestling, but that's what it is. And it's just frustrating, and I'm afraid I almost don't want any of these girls to officially come to the main roster, because they're being wasted right now. They're not being given proper opportunities. Yes, they're being given a little bit more time. Yes, they're being given They have 2 matches on the card now most weeks. They're being given a little bit more time in ring, but it's not enough. Not enough to tell the story that they need, deserve, and can tell in the amount of time they're being given. There's no guy on the roster that can tell a believable story in the amount of time that these women are given. They're given on record maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes a match, if that. And that includes a possible commercial break in between. That's not enough time to do anything. So these girls are rushing. The communication gets all screwed up. You need to fit these women in. You need to give them the shot. Because you want to call this a Divas Revolution. But to be quite honest, it's not that much different from what we got before. Now you have more women on the Divas roster. And they're extremely talented. But I mean, you had talented women on your roster before. Why all of a sudden is it now we should have our Divas Revolution? I mean, you have Natalya on your roster. You have Alicia Fox, and they're both talented. You have Naomi. Nikki and Brie are both talented. I mean, I honestly, in my opinion, and this is not a knock on them, I don't think that they are ready to be in the position they are in, but because of popularity, and I do think it doesn't hurt that they're, one is married to Daniel Bryan, the other is married to John Cena, or dating John Cena, rather. I don't think that hurts. I think that helps them a lot. But I don't think they're as ready as some of these other women for the opportunities that they've been given. And that's not to say they don't, they're not good, because they are. They've improved vastly. I just don't think they've improved enough to the point where Nikki can be the longest reigning Divas champion. So you've had these talented women on your roster for quite some time now. I mean, Alicia Fox has been there for a very long time now. And it's crazy to me that, she's just now getting some recognition. She's very talented. She's put on some incredible matches. There's a match that I haven't personally watched, but people rave about. And it was on Superstars a while back, and it was Natalya versus Alicia Fox. And apparently it was extremely good. So you have the talent. There's no excuse for what's going on right now. But you keep putting on these matches where these women are rushing to get things done. That's going to cause injury, which is going to cause you to have to put out more money, medical bills, where they're going to have to take going to have to be put on the injured reserve, and they're going to have to take time off from your company. And because they're still actively on your roster, you're going to have to pay them still. So you're wasting money, because these women are going to get injured. Because you're not giving them enough time to, really express their craft. These women are fantastic at what they do, and it just goes to show that whoever is running things over on Raw and SmackDown need to really rethink their formula, because it's not working. I mean, go watch any match that these women have put on in NXT. Watch any match involving Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, even Emma. Go watch what Emma's doing down at NXT right now. She's phenomenal. That girl can wrestle. That girl is entertaining. Her new gimmick is great. I love it. I love this evil Emma type deal. It's interesting. But then she's going to get moved back to the main roster again, and nothing's going to become of it. They're going to just ignore it, and they're going to, there's no reason for her to not be super successful right now. She has everything. They're just not packaging her up properly enough. They're not giving her enough time. They're not doing anything with her. And that's at the fault of the WWE. You have everything right in front of you, but you're not utilizing it. You're not using it properly, and it's upsetting. And I love the women's division. I'm not a fan of the Divas division. It's too reality based. They've really tainted it with the Divas, the Total Divas, which I don't watch because I think it's a ridiculous show. I mean, in one sense, I think they could really utilize Total Divas. I think that, there is potential there to really, really sell the WWE and make it more realistic. And I think that there is promise, but I feel like they've kind of missed the mark. They're too focused, like everything else that they're doing in the WWE these days. They're far too focused on making money than they are furthering their product, because I feel like in their minds they're at the point where, well, we're already successful. We don't need to worry about that. No, you definitely do. you definitely need to worry about continuing to further your product. And that's not what they're doing. I think in design, Total Divas was meant to help further their product, but we're making money off of this. We're getting publicity off of this. That's all that matters. No, that's secondary. That's not even what's on the forefront. On the forefront is you need to set up these women, make them believable, and not just these women who have cat fights and argue with each other every single episode, because that's not realistic. And it paints them in a bad light. I mean, if you're trying to get them over as a heel, then yeah, maybe you might want to do that. But I mean, you can really do something dynamic with these characters. Stop reusing the same tired old blueprints that you've been using for years, because it's been lame forever. I mean, I can't think of one time where other than with the Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, that era, that was when women really, women's wrestling was fantastic. There were some stints of some really incredible women wrestlers, Medusa. We have Lita. I know a lot of people don't care for Trish Stratus. She was just a pretty face. I think she was extremely talented in the ring. Obviously, then you have, and this is not a shot at them at all, but then you have like Stacy Keibler's and women like that, and they weren't terrible, but they were more for eye candy. They need to get away from that, because these women are beautiful in one aspect, but they're also talented. So stop focusing on eye candy. You don't do that with the guys. Yes, a lot of women are attracted to some of the guys. They think the guys are very attractive, but that's not what you're focusing on. Guys are going to be attracted to these women no matter what, because it's natural. But I can look at women anywhere. When I'm watching wrestling, I want to see these women perform. I want to see them do what they do best. I really want them to showcase that, to be quite honest, the women in that division are better at what they're doing right now than 95% of the entire roster. And I don't just mean the main roster. I'm talking about 95% of the combined roster. These women are putting on shows that some of the men can't even do. It's mind-blowing that they're not utilizing this, that this isn't, the Divas Revolution, they shouldn't have to showcase it as this big spectacle. It should already be happening. It's that simple. Let them do what they do and keep your hands off. It's that simple. They'll bring in the crowds, So, maybe they got to look over at NXT, maybe talk to Triple H, see what he's doing over there. Why is it so successful there and it's kind of lacking over here? Maybe you're spending too much time on the whole reality show nonsense. But whatever they're doing down at NXT, it's working. And these women are, you feel a sense of pride when you see these women. It's like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is what we want. And one of the announcers, I can't remember who it is. I don't know if it was Byron or Corey Graves or Michael Cole 2.0. I don't remember that guy's name when I was watching TakeOver. I don't remember what his name is. He was sitting in the middle. I kind of go on YouTube. I watch matches. I sometimes catch NXT. I watch the pay-per-views, but I don't really pay too much attention to the commentator, so I'm not sure who that guy is. If you know what his name is, comment in the comment section, obviously. I call him Michael Cole 2.0 because he's like the spitting image. Or like, just be like Michael Cole. That's kind of what he reminds me of. He's a play-by-play type commentator. So I don't remember which one said it, but I remember, when Bayley wins and all of the women, it was such an empowering moment. All of the women rush into the ring and, they hug her. They all raise their hands. These are the four horsewomen of the WWE. They're bringing women's wrestling back. And one of the announcers goes, women's wrestling is back. And I don't know about anybody else, but I felt a sense of pride in these women. I felt a sense of excitement, and I was just like, yes. But then you go and you watch SummerSlam, and the women's it was disgraceful on the part of the WWE because it didn't even come close to what they did in that match. The amount of storytelling, the amount of wrestling. These women put it all on the line, and they didn't even come close at SummerSlam. So it just, the Divas Revolution seems to be dying. Hopefully they can put it on life support, or just pull the plug and move them back to NXT where they can actually be used respectfully, because they're not being respected on the main roster, and that's a shame. It really, really is a shame. All right, guys, it is about that time again. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe to The Breaking Point. Make sure you come back here and join me again tomorrow morning, same time, same place. And as always, consider the point broken.